The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon chatter, but David heard none of it. Across from him, Marcus fidgeted with his cup, his usual easy smile replaced by something that looked like dread. "You're scaring me, man," David said, forcing a laugh. "What's so urgent we had to meet right now?" Marcus looked up, his eyes heavy with something David couldn't quite name. "Guilt? Pity? I should have told you months ago. I've been eating myself alive over this." David's stomach tightened. 6 months ago, his daughter Emma had been born. 6 months of sleepless nights, endless joy, and a love so profound it sometimes brought him to tears. His wife Sarah had been his rock through everything, their marriage stronger than ever despite the chaos of new parenthood. "Marcus, whatever it is." "I saw Sarah," Marcus interrupted, the words tumbling out like he'd been rehearsing them. "During her pregnancy. It was late, maybe 11 at night. I was driving home from that conference, remember? The one in March." David's mouth went dry. March. Sarah had been 7 months pregnant then, uncomfortable and tired, or so she'd said. "I saw her at that all-night diner on Riverside. She was with a man." Marcus wouldn't meet his eyes now. They were sitting close, David. Really close. And the way he touched her hand. "Stop." David's voice came out strangled. The coffee shop suddenly felt too hot, too loud, too real. "You're saying my wife was cheating on me while pregnant with our daughter?" "I don't know what I'm saying. I just know what I saw." Marcus finally looked at him, and David saw tears in his best friend's eyes. "I've been wrestling with this for months. Do I tell you? Do I stay silent? I watched you in the delivery room, David. I saw how you looked at Emma. And I kept thinking." "Thinking what?" David's hands were shaking now. "That she might not be mine." The words hung in the air like poison. Emma with her dark curls and Sarah's green eyes. Emma who gripped his finger while she slept. Emma who was his entire world. "I tried to convince myself I was wrong," Marcus continued. "That maybe it was innocent. A work colleague, a cousin, anything. But David, the way they looked at each other. I can't unsee it." David stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Several people turned to look. "I need to go." "Wait." Marcus grabbed his arm. "There's more." "More? How can there possibly be more?" "I recorded something. That night, I was going to confront them, but then I took out my phone. I have video, David. I have proof of whatever was happening." David felt like the ground had dropped away beneath him. "You recorded my wife? You've had this for months and you're only telling me now." "I was trying to protect you." Marcus's voice cracked. "I was trying to figure out what to do. But then Emma was born, and you were so happy, and Sarah seemed so devoted, and I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I had misunderstood everything." "Then why tell me now?" Marcus pulled out his phone with trembling hands. "Because last week, I saw them again. Same diner, same time. He kissed her goodbye, David. On the mouth. Whatever was happening during her pregnancy, it's still happening." The coffee shop spun around David. He thought of Sarah that morning, kissing him goodbye before he left for this meeting. She'd had Emma on her hip, both of them smiling at him like he was their whole world. She'd told him she loved him. She'd seemed so genuine, so real. Had it all been a lie? "Show me," David heard himself say. "Show me the recording." Marcus's finger hovered over his phone screen. "Once you see this, you can't unsee it. Are you sure?" David thought of Emma sleeping in her crib, innocent and perfect. He thought of Sarah, the woman he'd married 5 years ago in a ceremony where they'd promised forever. He thought of every tender moment, every shared dream, every plan they'd made together. "Show me," he repeated. Marcus pressed play, and David's world began to crumble. David didn't go home that night. He couldn't. Instead, he drove aimlessly through the city, Marcus's video playing on an endless loop in his mind. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Sarah in profile, her pregnant belly visible even in the dim diner lighting. The man across from her, tall, dark-haired, maybe 40, leaning in close. Their hands intertwined on the table. His thumb stroking her wrist in a gesture so intimate it made David physically ill. He'd watched it 3 times in the coffee shop before stumbling out, Marcus calling after him. Now he sat in his car outside a park where he and Sarah used to walk, trying to remember how to breathe. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, where are you? Emma's been fussy all evening. She misses her daddy." The casualness of it infuriated him. How could she text him about their daughter when she'd been, what? Having an affair? With whose baby? David's fingers shook as he typed back, "Working late. Don't wait up." 3 dots appeared, then, "Okay. Love you." Love. The word felt like a weapon now. He couldn't go home, not yet. Not until he knew the truth. David pulled up his banking app, something he rarely checked since Sarah handled most of their finances. She was better with money, more organized. At least, that's what he'd always told himself. The transactions were normal at first. Groceries, baby supplies, utility bills. Then he saw them, cash withdrawals, always on Wednesday nights, always $200. Every week for the past 8 months. His hands tightened on the phone. Wednesdays were Sarah's mom's night out, when she met her book club. Or so she'd said. David called the only person he could trust right now. Marcus answered on the first ring. "David? Are you okay? I need your help. That video, can you send it to me? And I need to know if you can see what else was said that night." The video doesn't have audio. I was too far away, and the diner was loud. But David, maybe you should just talk to Sarah. Ask her directly. And give her time to prepare a lie. David's laugh was bitter. "No. I need facts first. Evidence. I need to know if Emma is even mine." The silence on the other end was deafening. "You're talking about a paternity test," Marcus finally said. "I'm talking about the truth." David watched a young couple walk past his car, pushing a stroller, looking happy. Had he ever really been that happy? Or had it all been an illusion? "Can you help me or not? What do you need?" Over the next week, David became someone he didn't recognize. He came home late, claiming project deadlines. He avoided Sarah's touch, making excuses about being tired or stressed. He watched her with Emma, looking for signs of guilt, signs of deception, signs that the baby didn't belong to him. But Sarah was perfect, as always. Patient with Emma's crying, affectionate toward David despite his distance, managing the household with the same efficiency she always had. It made everything worse. On Wednesday, David told Sarah he had a business dinner. Instead, he followed her. She left the house at 7, kissing Emma goodbye with the tenderness that had first made David fall in love with her. She drove to the diner on Riverside, and David's heart sank. Marcus had been right. He parked far enough away to watch through binoculars, feeling like a spy in his own marriage. At 7:30, a car pulled up. The same man from the video emerged, and Sarah rushed to meet him. But something was wrong. The man's body language wasn't romantic, it was formal, almost guarded. They sat across from each other with a table between them, no touching this time. Sarah pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. The man opened it, examined the contents, then nodded. They talked for maybe 10 minutes before Sarah left. David followed the man instead. The car led him to an office building in the financial district. David watched the man enter, waited 5 minutes, then followed. The directory listed the man's office on the 3rd floor, James Chen, private investigator. A private investigator. Sarah had been meeting with a private investigator. David's mind raced. Why would Sarah need a PI? What was she investigating? And why had Marcus's video made it look so intimate? He sat in his car, phone in hand, Marcus's video queued up again. This time, he watched differently. The hand-holding, was it romantic, or was it Sarah crying, seeking comfort? The close proximity, was it attraction, or intense conversation? His phone rang. Sarah. Hey, honey. Book club ran late. I'm heading home now. Did you eat? David closed his eyes. Yeah, I ate. I'm almost home too. Emma's with your mom. Maybe we could have some adult time when we get back. Her voice was hopeful, vulnerable. The voice of the woman he'd married. Maybe, he said, and ended the call. He had Emma's hair from her first haircut at home in a baby book. He'd saved it, sentimental fool that he was. It would be enough for a paternity test. He could get one done privately, get the results in a few days, know for certain. But the question was, did he want to know? If Emma wasn't his, would he love her less? And if Sarah had hired a PI, what had she been investigating? David drove home, more confused than ever, Marcus's recording playing one more time. At the end, just before Marcus had stopped filming, Sarah had turned toward the window. The man had reached across the table, but not to touch her hand romantically. He'd handed her a tissue. And David could see now what he'd missed before. Sarah had been crying. David lasted 3 more days before he broke. 3 days of watching Sarah move through their home like everything was normal. 3 days of holding Emma and wondering if she carried his DNA or belonged to some mystery man. 3 days of the private investigator's business card burning a hole in his pocket. On Saturday morning, Sarah made pancakes while Emma babbled in her high chair. The domesticity of it all felt like a cage closing in around him. We need to talk, David said. Sarah looked up from the stove, spatula in hand, smiling. Sure. What's up? Not here. Can your mom watch Emma for a few hours? The smile faded. David, you're scaring me. What's wrong? Please. Just call your mom. An hour later, they sat in their car at a park overlook. The city sprawled below them. Sarah had been silent the entire drive, her hands twisted in her lap. David had rehearsed this conversation a dozen times, but now the words wouldn't come. I know about the diner, he finally said. Sarah's face went white. What? Riverside Diner. Wednesday nights. The man you've been meeting. David pulled out his phone, pulled up Marcus's video. I have proof, Sarah. So please, don't lie to me. Sarah stared at the screen, her hand over her mouth. When she looked up, tears were streaming down her face. How long have you known? The question hit him like a punch. She wasn't denying it. She was asking how long he'd known. Marcus saw you 6 months ago. During your pregnancy. He told me last week. David's voice shook. I need to know the truth, Sarah. All of it. Is Emma mine? Sarah's eyes went wide with shock. What? David, of course Emma is yours. How could you even? She stopped, understanding dawning on her face. Oh God. You think I was having an affair. What else am I supposed to think? Secret meetings, lying about book club, cash withdrawals every week? And that man, Marcus saw him touch you, Sarah. He saw you together. James is a private investigator, David. I hired him. I know. I followed you. I followed him. David felt the confession tear out of him. But that doesn't explain why you needed a PI. Or why you lied about it. Sarah pressed her hands to her face, her shoulders shaking. When she looked up, her expression was devastated. I was trying to protect you. I was trying to protect all of us. From what? From your father. David felt the world tilt. His father, Thomas Whelan, had died 4 years ago, or so they'd been told. The funeral had been closed casket. The death certificate had listed cardiac arrest. David had mourned, even though his relationship with his father had been complicated at best. My father's dead, Sarah. No, she said quietly. His not. The words hung between them like a grenade. That's impossible. We buried him. We. You buried an empty casket, David. Your father faked his death. Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope, her hands trembling. 6 months ago, I saw him. I was at the grocery store, 7 months pregnant. and I saw him in the parking lot. I thought I was hallucinating, but then he looked right at me. He put his finger to his lips, like this was some kind of game, and walked away. David couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. I didn't tell you because I wasn't sure. I thought pregnancy hormones were making me see things. But then I saw him again, outside Emma's pediatrician's office. And I knew I wasn't crazy. Sarah opened the envelope, spreading photographs across the seat between them. So I hired James Chen to find out if Thomas Whelan was really alive. The photographs showed a man who looked hauntingly like an older version of David. Same jawline, same build, but with graying hair and a beard. He was captured in various locations, outside a bank, entering an apartment building, sitting in a cafe. That's impossible, David whispered. Why would he fake his death? Money. Crime. James is still investigating, but it looks like your father embezzled from his company. A lot of money. He faked his death to escape prosecution. Sarah's voice hardened. And now he's back, David. He's been watching us. Following us. I've seen him 3 times outside our house. David felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was scared. Scared you wouldn't believe me. Scared of what it would do to you. Your relationship with your father was already so damaged, and then he died, and you finally got closure. Sarah grabbed his hands. I thought if James could gather enough evidence, we could go to the police. Make this official. But I wanted to be sure first. I wanted to protect you from being hurt again. So the meetings were progress updates. James investigating. Me paying him. That night Marcus saw us, I just received confirmation that your father was definitely alive. I broke down. James tried to comfort me. That's all it was, David. I swear. David looked at the photographs again, his mind reeling. The man in the pictures looked like his father, but older, harder. A stranger wearing his father's face. Why is he watching us? We don't know yet. James thinks he wants something. Money, maybe, or help. Or... Sarah's voice dropped. Or he wants to know his granddaughter. The thought made David's blood run cold. His father, if this man was really his father, was a criminal. A liar. Someone who'd faked his own death and let his family grieve. And now he was circling David's family like a predator. I need to talk to Marcus, David said suddenly. He needs to know what his video actually showed. David, I'm so sorry. I should have told you everything from the start. I just wanted to handle it on my own, keep you safe from all of this. Safe? David laughed bitterly. Sarah, I spent the last week thinking you cheated on me. Thinking Emma might not be mine. I was planning to get a paternity test. You want to know what that did to me? Sarah's face crumpled. I'm so sorry. I never meant. I know. But we're supposed to be partners. We're supposed to trust each other. David looked at his wife, this woman he loved, who'd been carrying this burden alone. No more secrets. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Sarah nodded, wiping her tears. Together. David pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. But even as they embraced, his mind was racing. His father was alive. His father was watching them. And somewhere out there, Thomas Whelan had a plan. David just had to figure out what it was before it was too late. Marcus arrived at their house within the hour, his face tight with concern. David had called him from the car, his voice shaking as he explained everything. Now the 3 of them sat in the living room, Emma napping upstairs, oblivious to the storm gathering around her family. I don't understand, Marcus said, staring at the photographs spread across the coffee table. Your father is alive? And you hired a PI? He looked at Sarah, then David. I accused you of cheating. I made David think. You were trying to protect your friend, Sarah said quietly. I understand that. But I need you to understand that I love David. I would never betray him like that. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. I've been eating myself alive for months. I saw you that night, Sarah, and I just assumed the worst. God, I'm so sorry. We're past that now, David said, though his voice was strained. The last week had left scars that would take time to heal. Right now, we need to figure out what my father wants and why he's watching us. Have you contacted the police? Marcus asked. Not yet, Sarah said. James, the investigator, wanted us to have more evidence first. If we accuse Thomas Whelan of faking his death without solid proof, he could disappear again. We'd never get answers. David picked up one of the photographs. His father stared back at him through the camera lens, his expression unreadable. 4 years. For years of grieving a man who'd been alive the whole time, living under a fake identity, doing God knows what. What did James find out about the embezzlement? David asked. Sarah pulled out a folder. Your father worked as CFO for Merit Technologies. Over 3 years, he siphoned off nearly $2 million into offshore accounts. The company discovered it, reported it to the FBI. Your father had a heart attack, supposedly, 2 days before he was set to be arrested. Convenient timing, Marcus muttered. The death certificate was real. Doctor's signature, coroner's report, everything. James thinks your father paid someone off, probably multiple people. The body in the casket was likely a John Doe from the morgue. Sarah's voice was clinical, detached, as if reading someone else's story. He's been living in Seattle under the name Thomas Walsh. Working as a financial consultant. He's rebuilt a life. Then why come back? David demanded. Why risk everything by showing up here? The doorbell rang, making them all jump. David moved to the window and looked out. A black sedan sat at the curb, and on the porch stood James Chen, the private investigator. But he wasn't alone. David's breath caught in his throat. Standing next to James, looking older and more worn than the photograph suggested, was Thomas Whelan. David's father. The man who'd ruined his life twice, once by being an absent, critical father, and again by faking his death. Sarah, David said, his voice barely above a whisper. Call the police. Now. But before Sarah could move, David's father spoke through the door. Please, David. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here to make things right. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Marcus moved to stand beside David. Don't let him in. But David was already unlocking the door. Some part of him needed this confrontation, needed to look his father in the eye and demand answers. Thomas Whelan stepped into the foyer, and David was struck by how small he looked. In his memories, his father had always been larger than life, intimidating, powerful, impossible to please. But this man looked tired, scared even. You have 5 minutes, David said coldly. Then I'm calling the police myself. Thomas nodded, his eyes moving past David to where Sarah and Marcus stood. I know you have no reason to believe me, but I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here because I'm dying. The words hung in the air. Sarah's hand found David's. I have pancreatic cancer, Thomas continued, his voice rough. Stage 4. I've got maybe 6 months left. And I couldn't die without trying to fix what I'd broken. Fix what you'd broken. David's voice rose. You stole millions of dollars. You faked your death. You let me believe you were gone. You let me grieve. And now you show up because you're actually dying and expect, what? Forgiveness. No. I expect nothing from you. You have every right to hate me. Thomas reached into his jacket, and both David and Marcus tensed, but he only pulled out an envelope. The money I stole, most of it is still in those offshore accounts. I'm signing it over to you. All of it. $1.8 million. It's yours. David stared at the envelope like it might explode. I don't want your blood money. It's not for you. It's for her. Thomas's eyes moved to the ceiling, toward where Emma slept. My granddaughter. I've watched you with her, David. You're a better father than I ever was. But I want her to have security. College. A future. Take the money. Put it in a trust. Let it do some good. Sarah spoke for the first time. Why did you fake your death? Why not just run? Thomas looked at her, and David saw genuine remorse in his father's eyes. Because I was a coward. The FBI was closing in. Prison terrified me. So I took the easy way out, or what I thought was the easy way. I paid off a corrupt doctor, staged the heart attack, disappeared. I thought I could start over, be someone better. But you can't outrun who you are. How did you find us? David asked. I never lost you. I kept tabs over the years. Saw your wedding announcement. Saw the birth announcement for Emma. I told myself I was just making sure you were okay, but the truth is, I was too afraid to face what I'd done. Then the cancer diagnosis came, and suddenly time was running out. James Chen spoke for the first time. I've been working with the FBI for the past month. Thomas came to me first, wanting to turn himself in. He wanted me to approach you, David, prepare you. But then you showed up that night, Sarah, and I realized the investigation had gotten complicated. The FBI knows. Sarah asked. They know everything. Thomas is cooperating fully. He'll face charges, but given his health and his cooperation, he'll likely serve out his remaining months under house arrest rather than in prison. James looked at David. He insisted on meeting you first. On asking permission, not forgiveness. David looked at his father, this stranger who'd shaped so much of his life through absence and criticism. Part of him wanted to rage, to throw him out, to call the police and watch him be taken away in handcuffs. But another part, the part that had Emma sleeping upstairs, understood that life was more complicated than simple revenge. I don't forgive you, David said finally. I may never forgive you. But Emma deserves to know where she came from. So I'll take the money, and I'll put it in trust for her. And when she's old enough, I'll tell her about you. The good and the bad. She can decide for herself what it means. Thomas's eyes filled with tears. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. I'm not done, David continued, his voice hardening. You don't get to be in her life. You don't get to play grandfather. You made your choices, and now you live with the consequences. The money is the only thing you have to offer, and it's the only thing I'll accept. Thomas nodded slowly, accepting the judgment. I understand. James helped Thomas back toward the door. But at the threshold, Thomas turned one last time. David, for what it's worth, I'm proud of the man you became. Despite everything I did wrong, you turned out good. Better than good. Be proud of that. Then he was gone, disappearing into the black sedan. David stood in the doorway, Sarah's hand in his, Marcus beside them, watching the car drive away. Are you okay? Sarah asked quietly. David thought about the question. Was he okay? His father had been alive. His wife had been keeping secrets. His best friend had suspected the worst. His entire world had been turned upside down in the space of a week. But Emma was upstairs sleeping. Sarah was beside him. The truth was finally out. I will be, he said. 3 months later, David stood in his home office, a cardboard box on his desk. The FBI had finally closed the case. Thomas Whelan had died 4 weeks ago, this time for real, in a hospice facility in Seattle. He'd been alone, as he'd requested. No visitors, no funeral. Just a quiet end to a complicated life. The box contained his father's effects. The FBI agent who delivered it had been apologetic. He left specific instructions. This goes to his son. David had been avoiding opening it for days. But tonight, with Sarah putting Emma to bed and the house quiet, he finally lifted the lid. Inside were expected things, his father's watch, some old photographs of David as a child, his parents' wedding album. But at the bottom was a USB drive with a note attached in his father's shaky handwriting, the truth you deserve. I'm sorry. David plugged the drive into his computer. There was a single video file, dated the day before his father's death. He pressed play. His father's face appeared on screen, gaunt and pale, sitting in what looked like a hospital room. When he spoke, his voice was weak but clear. David. If you're watching this, then I'm gone. Really gone this time. I recorded this because there are things you need to know. Things I never had the courage to say in person. David's hand hovered over the pause button, but he let the video continue. I know what you think of me. I know I was a terrible father. Critical, absent, cold. And you're right to think that. But I want you to understand why, even if it doesn't excuse anything. Thomas took a labored breath. Your mother, God, your mother was the best thing that ever happened to me. When she died, when you were 12, something in me broke. I looked at you and saw her eyes, her smile, her goodness. And it destroyed me because I couldn't protect her. I was supposed to save her, and I failed. David felt tears beginning to form. He barely remembered his mother, and his father had never talked about her after the funeral. So I pushed you away. I criticized you because I was angry at myself. I was absent because looking at you hurt too much. I threw myself into work, into money, into anything that would numb the pain. And by the time I realized what I'd done, you were grown and gone, and I'd missed everything that mattered. Thomas wiped his eyes on the video. The embezzlement, I told you it was cowardice, and it was. But it was also desperation. I'd gotten into debt trying to fill the void your mother left. Gambling, bad investments, trying to feel something. When they discovered what I'd done, I panicked. I thought if I could just disappear, start over, maybe I could become someone worth knowing. Someone your mother wouldn't be ashamed of. But you can't run from yourself. In Seattle, I built a life, but it was hollow. I'd see fathers with their sons, and I'd think of you. I'd see grandfathers with babies, and I'd ache for what I'd thrown away. The money didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the fact that I'd destroyed the only relationship that ever really counted. Thomas leaned closer to the camera. When I got the cancer diagnosis, my first thought wasn't fear. It was relief. I finally had an excuse to come back, to try to make things right. Not for me. I knew I was beyond redemption. But for you. So you wouldn't spend the rest of your life wondering why I wasn't the father you deserved. He paused, gathering strength. I want you to know something, David. The man I saw when I watched you with Emma, that's who you were always meant to be. Kind, patient, present. Everything I wasn't. You broke the cycle. You became the father I should have been. And I need you to know that even though I had no right to feel it, watching you with your daughter was the proudest moment of my life. Thomas's voice broke. I know I asked you not to forgive me, and I meant it. What I did was unforgivable. But I need you to forgive yourself for any guilt you might feel. You owe me nothing. Not your tears, not your grief, not your regret. Live your life. Love your family. Be the man you already are. That's all I ever wanted for you. He reached toward the camera. There's one more file on this drive. It's for Emma, when she's old enough to understand. It's the story of her grandmother, your mother. All the things I should have told you but couldn't. Tell Emma she came from love, even if I forgot how to show it. Tell her. He stopped, overcome with emotion. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Tell her that her grandfather's greatest regret was that he let fear turn him into a stranger. Don't let that happen to you, David. Don't let anything make you forget what matters. The video ended. David sat in silence, tears streaming down his face. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to find Sarah standing in the doorway. I heard the video, she said softly. I'm sorry. David shook his head. Don't be. He was right about one thing. I did break the cycle. We broke it together. Sarah moved to his side, and they stood together looking at the frozen image of Thomas Whelan on the screen. A complicated man. A flawed father. A cautionary tale. What will you tell Emma? Sarah asked. David thought about his daughter sleeping upstairs, innocent and loved. He thought about the trust fund his father had left her, money that could give her opportunities he'd never had. He thought about the second video file on the drive, the grandmother she'd never meet. I'll tell her the truth. All of it. That her grandfather made terrible choices but tried to make amends at the end. That people are complicated. That love sometimes looks like absence, even when it shouldn't. And that she comes from a long line of imperfect people who loved as best they knew how. He closed the laptop and pulled Sarah into his arms. But mostly, I'll tell her that the past doesn't define us. Our choices do. And I choose to be here, to be present, to be the father she deserves. Every single day. Sarah kissed his forehead. She's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have each other. Later that night, after Sarah had gone to bed, David returned to his office. He opened the second video file, the one meant for Emma. His mother's face appeared on screen, not a video his father had made, but old family footage his father must have digitized. His mother, young and laughing, holding a baby David in her arms. "Look at the camera, sweetheart," she was saying to baby David. "Wave to your future self. Hi, future David. I hope you know how loved you are. I hope you know how much joy you bring to our lives. I hope." The video cut to another scene, then another. Birthday parties, holidays, ordinary moments made extraordinary by preservation. His mother's voice, his father's laughter in the background, a family before everything fell apart. David watched it all, memorizing his mother's face, her gestures, her warmth. He would show this to Emma someday. He would tell her about the grandmother who'd loved deeply and died too soon, and the grandfather who'd loved badly and tried to make it right. But tonight, he simply watched and remembered and grieved, not for the father he'd lost, but for the father his dad had never been able to become. In the morning, David would wake up to Emma's cries. He would lift her from her crib, kiss her forehead, and start another day of being present, of being there, of being the father he'd always needed. That was his father's final gift. Not the money or the apology, but the clear understanding of what not to do. How not to love. How not to live. David powered down the computer and went upstairs to his family. Sarah was already awake, Emma nestled between them in bed. They both looked up when he entered, and Emma reached for him with chubby arms. "Dada," she said, her newest word. "That's right, baby girl," David whispered, lifting her into his arms. "Dada's here. Dada's always going to be here." And in that moment, holding his daughter, his wife's hand in his, David Whelan finally understood what his father had been trying to tell him all along. The greatest inheritance you can leave isn't money or property or even truth. It's presence. It's showing up. It's being there for the moments that matter and the moments that don't, day after day, choice after choice, building a life worth living and a love worth leaving behind. That was the recording's final truth. Not captured on video, but written in every choice David would make from this day forward. And unlike his father's recording, this truth would be lived, not just witnessed. Shared, not just confessed. A story still being written, with an ending yet to come.